Continuing on our way through Martin Court and passing the Point Apartments again on the right hand side and heading back towards the entranceway off of the West Lakes Boulevard into Martin Court. We're going to head now onto other parts of the island, another section of the island. We're going to head across West Lakes Boulevard in a northerly direction. We'll head along Corcoran Drive. The island for a long time has been regarded as one of the premier places to live. Again, like Martin Court on this side of the West Lakes Boulevard, on the other side there are the more prestigious locations, and particularly in the first instance a street called Sir John Marks Drive. Sir John Marks Drive is a looping street which goes out into a bit of a peninsula of land on the island. The great advantage of this particular location is that particularly the homes at the end of it face the widest stretch and body of water, the widest body of water, the widest section of lakefront properties that you will find in West Lakes. And again, just like in Martin Court, the standard of construction, the size of the properties are consummate with the quality of the location. So here we are entering Delfin Island. There it is on the sign, and just off to the right, as immediately you enter the island, is the opportunity to head on to Sir John Marks Drive. On the left hand side, more courtyard homes around what some would call the Duck Pond, which is actually a freshwater lake. On this side, Sir John Marks Drive has the odd cul-de-sac that runs off it, and that's typical of the design of West Lakes, that there's feeder roads, which will, in the case of the island, is Corcoran Drive. Now, feeder roads don't have houses facing them. All they have is, they are the main access way to where each smaller division has happened over the years. And so here we are in a quieter street, Sir John Marks Drive, coming off the feeder road. And again, the size of the properties you can see as we pass, and more new construction, of course. In this particular case and the next one is where homes were previously built and now have been demolished because the opportunity is there to capitalise on the land value. And again, this is something that you'll see happen time and time again in West Lakes. Occasionally you do see people start to renovate their property and make fantastic improvements to it, and that can pay off as well. But because of the value of the land, you see more and more that people are knocking them over and building two where once there was one. On our left-hand side now, amongst the best located properties in West Lakes, along with Martin Court in Sir John Marks Drive, right up against that wide body of water that is facing back towards the city. Again, more new construction. There'll be more vacant land. That particular property, I know, will be demolished in the next few weeks, and there'll be two allotments there. Perhaps someone will have the money to buy more than the individual allotment and buy the two together and have one really big one, and it wouldn't surprise me at all because there's that sort of money around for these sort of locations. Again, new build here too, where once there was one. Rendered properties where previously they were more brick frontage, and again you see those on larger allotments with the opportunity to knock them over one day or vastly improve them. See how quiet the streets are here? That's because of that no-through road design, that feeder road design, where there's not any cause for people. It's not a shortcut to anywhere. The street, it's a way home. The reserves that are around, the access to the waterfront, the lifestyle that's available in West Lakes, and that deserves addressing as well. That West Lakes on the island here is. The lakefront properties. I lived on the island for some years with my parents in Keppel Grove, and to be able to go out in your pontoon and go fishing or diving and swimming and using sailcraft to various forms and canoes, etc., gives you a great active life and a place to cool off beautifully in the evening. And the quality of the water is fantastic because it comes out of the sea. It comes in at the Tennyson end through a large pipe, and then it's flushed out the other end through the Port River. More parklands, and this is again a large feature of the West Lakes area, the amount of parklands, a walking bridge. There's a couple of those that lead to the island that provide shortcuts for people to get to West Lakes Mall, etc., from other parts of West Lakes. That wide stretch and curving nature of the lake, it's just beautiful spot, just a beautiful spot to live. We're on that feeder road now, so you notice the number of cars, it's up a little bit, but that's all working very well because there's no homes facing this particular street. Liberman Court on our right hand side, another street of fantastic appeal. Trinidad Court on the left hand side, more adjacent, the freshwater lake, and really a beautiful and quiet spot to live. This is so typical of what you find in West Lakes, that is that high quality of homes. And on the island, of course, built mostly in the 80s and many in the early 90s, and now this resurgence and renewal of the area, urban renewal, as some people call it. It's not happening on a wholesale basis, but just one here and one there being picked off and really being improved magnificently. Wide section of lake here, playground and sandy beach. This is still on Corcoran Drive here as we go around the island. And what you'll find, I'm going to take you into Anna Court. Now, Anna Court, Delfin in their day were pioneers in this. In South Australia, they utilised a process of dividing land and building on it, where they put shadow plans up. You had to build within the shadow, and it involved what they call zero lot line building, which is building on a boundary. Every property is on a boundary, and despite the thought that this might actually infringe on privacy, it actually enhanced it, because you didn't have two windows facing each other across a fence. You had a window facing a wall, and this gave you an opportunity to create a courtyard, as the name suggests. So you had privacy rather than a window at the edge of that courtyard of a neighbour. So these were on small allotments than was then the traditional size allotment. Typically, the minimum size in those days was accepted to be around about 560 square metres. Many of these are on land of only in the order of around about the 375 through to 450 and up to about 500. Now you see the occasional courtyard home on a longer block at the end of a street where it's been on a larger piece of land. But typically single level properties, easy to maintain, appeal for retirees, etc. And on the subject of retirees, we're just passing Woodbridge North here. Now Woodbridge North is one of a complex, a number of properties which are established on the island as retirement, and other places around West Lakes as retirement villages. So what the idea is in West Lakes is that you could go from cradle to grave, if you like, and live here in great comfort. Or there's the normal typical house that would be a stepping stone to a lakefront property, which would be a stepping stone to perhaps an apartment or a courtyard home, and then later on still stay in West Lakes amongst your family and friends and things that you're familiar with, and be in a position to retire into a retirement village if that was what you were choosing. So we're well onto the island now, and at this point the Corcoran Drive becomes Delfin Drive. And at this end of the island, we're at the northern extreme of the island. We're going to head just briefly into McDonald Grove. McDonald Grove was one of the last streets to be developed in West Lakes. That is, the land was released in the 90s when the land prices were up. Originally, they were down in the $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 mark when they were first released, and then as time went by, the lakefront properties or lakefront land got well up in price to the point of being in the hundreds of thousands rather than in the tens of thousands, and this is where probably the last of the generally released land was available. And again, you see the efforts that have been made down here over time. Slightly more modern buildings, still large and solid brick typically, which is hard to find these days. You don't see quite as much in terms of new build in that style because of the expense of doing so. West Lakes is one of those places that you can come to and still find a double brick house with a concrete slab between the floors and a very high class of construction, etc., and one that would be hard to emulate today. And that's one of the reasons also that people like investing back in them and putting more into existing properties, because the bones of them are fantastic. It's just the kitchens and the bathrooms often need some attention. You see that there's a lot of replication of the Federation style of home, the coins, etc. That was the fashion of the time when these properties were built. But also you see diversity from Tudor homes through to French provincial properties, etc. Architecturally, West Lakes is a very interesting place because the people who came here weren't typically putting a project home on the allotment. What they were doing is building something that was purpose designed for the position. And that was never more true than it was on the lakefront, because to take best advantage of the lakefront, you needed to construct a property which was taking advantage of the view. So off to our right hand side, these properties which face that little basin there, they pretty typically those properties pretty typically have a bit of a tier system with them, where you've got one room slightly higher than the other, and you look over the top of that room so you get a better view from the second room. In more recent times, the fashion has been to extend it all out on one level, and you'll find that there's a place for both in West Lakes. There's demand for both of those styles of living. The other thing you see around the island is the odd unit group as well. There's plenty of duplex groups. Again, off the water, courtyard homes provide a more modest price opportunity to buy in West Lakes, and will give you excellent value for money in lifestyle and location. Barley Court's a good example of that. In Barley Court, all courtyard homes. In some of these other streets, you get a mixture of courtyard home and full-size allotments. So the variety of housing keeps it interesting, keeps people in the area, because they can typically move only a few doors away or streets away and enjoy fantastic lifestyle on the island here and in other parts of West Lakes. So we'll close down this tour of the island and head back towards other parts of West Lakes and see what we can find there.